This week's discussion board is on the Octoroon versus Margaret Fleming. The first question is, what are the thematic differences you see in Margaret Fleming and the Octoroon? Some of the biggest thematic differences, or one of the biggest just differences that I saw with just reading them, was going from Margaret Fleming to the Octoroon, just trying to acclimate myself to being able to read the speech of the people in the Octoroon. Margaret Fleming was more of a formal English speaking, just more normal English, rather than the Octoroon was very informal, uneducated English, like a very broken English, and I had a hard time just trying to read some of it and understanding what they were trying to say. So that was one of the biggest differences, which I found, which I think is a good difference to have, because it is like the right thing for the time period, because not everyone was educated. You can really tell the difference between the speech of like the plantation owners versus and the more wealthy, educated white people in the play versus the slaves, or some of the maybe like a foreman or something who's employed on the plantation who hasn't been educated. So I thought that was a good representation of their time period, which kind of goes into the second question, which is how do they reflect the time periods in which they were written. So I think Dr. Roon kind of points out the fact that not everyone was educated and at that time. And in the Margaret Fleming play, I had a really big problem with the way that Margaret, I guess, was portrayed, which I guess is correct, but I guess it just bothers me. I guess both of the plays kind of point out how you can kind of like own a person. So in Margaret Fleming's time period, women or your wife was more like your property, and so she just sat at home all day, pretty much doing nothing, because not only she didn't have a job, obviously, because it wasn't something that was normal of a woman. Like, her biggest accomplishments at the time was probably like to be musically inclined and be able to sew and whatnot, instead of having a career or even take care of her own children. Like, she had a person who came to her home every day to help her take care of her kids. She had a person who came to her home every day to cook her food. She had a maid to clean her house. And I just can't imagine just sitting at home all day without having even that stuff to do. So in a way, like, her husband kind of owned her like a piece of furniture. She just sat around the house. And she so easily accepted him back, even though he was unfaithful and had a child with someone else. So the third question is, how are underrepresented populations depicted in this era? And I think that obviously in the Octoroon, you have like the slaves, whereas in Margaret Fleming, the underrepresented population would be German, which I think was good reflecting of their time period too, because you were having more immigration into America, especially in the North where the play took place. And so I think that really was a good way to, I guess, represent the underpopulation. And also the underrepresented population had like lower jobs, like a housemaid or a cook, or the Phillips Fleming's mistress. And so I don't know, I think that's how they were reflected at the time. So I think they did a good job of having it accurate, even though maybe it wasn't right for what it should have been morally, but it was accurate to the time period.